Okay, so we are starting Unit 8 with Lesson 1 about the solar system. Now in class we only did part about the inner planets, but in this video we're going to do a little bit about the outer gravity, as well. Sun, star, planet, moon, and comet. So our first one is gravity, and we'll learn more about this in Lesson 4 of this unit. It is the force of attraction that pulls objects towards each other and controls the motion of our solar system. So the important thing to understand about gravity for this lesson is that gravity pulls things in, not down. It pulls things inwards. It just feels like we're being pulled down because we're being pulled towards the center of the earth. But it actually pulls things inwards. And gravity is what makes the planets spheres because it pulls everything into the center. Sun, the luminous celestial body around which Earth and other planets revolve and from which they receive heat and light. So our sun is a very average star. It is a yellow star. Average age, average size, average energy. It is about 5 to 7 billion years old. That's what our sun looks like close up. Star, a ball of gas in space that produces its own light and heat. So the sun is a specific star, but there are many, 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 many other stars throughout the universe besides our star. Planet, any of the large celestial bodies that revolve around the sun in the solar system. So these are large bodies. They don't have any other large object near them. The biggest thing they could have in their neighborhood would be a moon. They are spherical, so they are shaped like a ball, and they revolve around something larger. So these are planets. Its definition does say that it has to be in our solar system, and that is not necessarily the case. Planets revolve around stars all over the universe. So here we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. A moon is a celestial body that revolves around a planet. So this is just something that revolves around a planet, which is the larger object, and then the planet revolves around the star. Our moon is called the moon because it was the first one we were able to see. We weren't able to see the moons of other planets until we were able to have telescopes several hundred years ago. And there's our moon. Comet. A comet is a celestial body of ice, dust, and rock with an elongated and elliptical orbit. So where the planets have orbits around the sun that are almost circles, but not quite, the comets have very long, sometimes crooked, oval-shaped orbits. And so there's an example of a comet. It has different parts, which you'll learn about in a couple more lessons, but here is the head of the comet, and here is the tail being left behind. Okay, so now we're into our notes. So some examples of celestial objects would be meteors, meteoroids, and meteorites. These are all three the same object, depending on where they're located. Comets, which is the picture here, and then asteroids as well. Okay, so we have the sun, and then we have inner planets close to the sun, the asteroid belt, and then outer planets further away from the sun. There are moons of all kinds of shapes and sizes. Normally they are spheres or balls, just like the planets, but some moons, like the moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos, are asteroids, so they are kind of lumpy looking. They're not spheres or ball shaped like our moon is. All right, some characteristics of the inner planets. They have elliptical orbits, so these are oval shaped. They're almost circles, but not quite. They are spheres of rock. They're smaller. They're the 4 smallest planets in the solar system. They are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. These tend to be warmer than the outer planets because they're closer to the sun. And they're all made of minerals that are similar to the Earth. The outer planets have elliptical orbits as well, so they also are almost circular, but not quite. These are called the gas giants, where the inner planets, if you remember, are called terrestrial. These are gas giants. They are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They are mostly gas, though their cores contain solid matter surrounded by liquids. So the gas giants do have a very small, solid core, but then most of the planet is gas on the outside. And these are much, much colder. They're so far away from the sun that even during the daytime when they're facing the sun, it's still freezing. So here's some examples or facts about moons. So these are smaller celestial objects that orbit planets. So these must be orbiting something else besides the sun. So like our moon orbits the Earth, and then the Earth orbits the sun. Moons are held in place by the gravitational pull of the planet. So the gravity of the planet is so strong that it keeps it orbiting around the planet and not just the star. It orbits. Some of the moons have volcanoes and some have frozen water. So there's a moon of Saturn called Europa that they believe has oceans of water under a frozen surface. And it's one of the places in the solar system that they think could likely have life on it. Right, so comets, meteors, and asteroids, these are small pieces of rock that are traveling through space. So when we say small, it depends on which one of these three we're talking about. Comets can be quite large, meteors are a little bit smaller, and asteroids can be very large. So if you think a meteor could be the size of maybe a car, an asteroid could be the size of a city or a state. So these all have very different sizes. Asteroids are located in the asteroid belt, which separates the inner and outer planets. The asteroid belt, again, is between Mars and Jupiter. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure that you have all 4 of these sections filled out. It's pretty. All right, so the sun is the largest body in our solar system. It burns hot gases, and 92% of the sun is hydrogen and 8% is helium. So the sun makes energy by heating up and pressing these hydrogen atoms together. They slam together, make helium, and in that solar fusion, energy is given off as light and heat. And we are our sun is only one of billions of stars in the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is only one of, hundreds of thousands of galaxies in the universe. So our sun is honestly nothing special. So all of the planets, have moons except for Mercury and Venus. So I tend to remember the first 2 planets don't have moons, and all the rest of them do. Earth is the only planet that supports life, though they have found evidence of water on other planets like Venus and Mars. The Galilean moons, now these are the moons of Jupiter. They were found by Galileo, which is why they're called the Galilean moons. These are the first 4 moons aside from ours that were discovered because they're so large, and Galileo found them with the telescope that he had been developing. And so they are Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. It's kind of a random fact, but those are just 4 moons that you'll need to remember for this unit. The Earth's moon is the 5th largest in the solar system. So if I remember correctly, the largest moon in the solar system is Titan on Saturn. Okay, here's kind of a diagram of the solar system. So the 4 inner planets, which are made of rock, are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Again, Earth and Mars have moons. Earth has 1 and Mars has 2. Here's the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. We have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. All of these have multiple moons, anywhere from the teens to the 60s. So I believe it is Saturn that has 60-something moons. These are 4 outer planets. They're all balls of gas, much colder, and again, this is separated by the asteroid belt in the middle. Okay, something to keep in mind, heliocentric means sun-centered. So there were astronomers back in the day who used to think that the solar system all revolved around the Earth, and so that would be called geocentric for Earth-centered. But then in the 1600s, they discovered the telescope, or they developed the telescope, and it gave them a much more accurate view of space. And this is when Galileo, like I said, discovered the moons of Jupiter. And these are only the largest 4. Jupiter does have moons, more moons than just these 4, but these are the first 4 that were discovered. And because of the movement of these moons, it led scientists to believe that the solar system actually revolved around the sun and not the Earth.